Give everyone a few minutes to hop in. Thank you. And let me get my slide ready. Oh, here we go. All righty. Happy Thursday, everyone. Thanks for joining the meeting today. We have some exciting guests joining us to talk about some cool things happening here in Phoenix. Before we dive into that, we're going to go through our usual state of business. So today we're kick things off with some announcements from Arizona Forward side, and Josie and I as well have a little share out on our subcommittee work, and then we'll kick it over to Will Rommel and Ryan Smith from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste and Recyclops to talk through some of the work they're collaborating on here in Phoenix. And then we will wrap up with any questions, comments, concerns. And this is actually going to be our last meeting before the summer break. And I think we'll be coming back together. Is it August or September? No, I can never remember.
Definitely September, but potentially in August. Yeah, we'll see.
Potentially August.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Alrighty. So I guess with that, if the Arizona Forward team has any announcements they want to share out.
Lori does want to make some announcements, but I think we'll save it to the end, if that's okay.
Yeah, sounds good. So for those of you who are first timers joining us, welcome. We always like to kick things off with highlighting our vision for this committee in collaboration with Arizona Forward. And so through this committee, we are hoping to have Arizona recognized nationally for valuing its materials through the development of a circular economy. And so everything we do is very much through the localized lens, focusing on reuse, recycling, recovery, and sustainable manufacturing markets. Within this committee, we do have three main goal areas that we are pushing forward on. First is reduce, reuse and repair, and recover and recycle. And so all the work we do in our committee is very much focused on bringing in speakers like our guests today to share their perspectives in these different goal areas, but also working together to drive forward solutions for Arizona. And so Josie and I actually just collaborated with the U.S. Green Building Council Southwest region to kick off a construction and demolition waste subcommittee. So for those of you who've been here for a while, you know that we do have subcommittees based on waste themes here within our overall committee. And recently there's been a resurgence of interest around C&D waste. And so we have officially kicked off a collaborative subcommittee with USGBC and Arizona Forward to try to drive forward solutions around that particular waste stream. I don't know, Josie, if you want to hop in and share anything out, but I think we'll be meeting every other month. So we're trying to do opposite of our Arizona Forward committee. So we just had our meeting, oh gosh, was it last week? And so, yeah.
Yeah, nothing really to add. We'll be meeting in the
I don't know, Josie, if you have anything to add on?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Okay, we'll be meeting in the
Yes, we can hear you.
from this committee, and we kind of had our first like visioning meeting last time, and I think the next one will be pretty similar. We're just kind of really trying to hone in on probably a couple goals or like production deliverable items that will move forward this issue in Arizona. So we'd love to have anyone else who's interested join us.
So please email Josie or I, and we'll get you looped into that particular subcommittee because we imagine it's going to be pretty active through the summer, especially while this committee takes a little summer break. And so with that, that is all I have for announcements. And I will stop sharing, and I'd love to kick it over to our guests. I think I see you made it, Will. Good to see you. So we have joining us today Will Rommel, who is our project advisors for the Americas for the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, and then Ryan Smith, who is the founder of Recyclops. And then Will or Ryan, I don't know if you guys have slides.
Yep,
I'd like
I've
to
got,
share.
I've got quick slides just to introduce the Alliance to End Plastic Waste and our U.S. Cities flagship program, which includes Phoenix, and then I'll just kind of kick it over to Ryan from there. So,
Let
Sounds
me
good.
before you jump in, Will.
yep, go ahead.
Spencer from the Recyclops team is actually here, and he's actually going to present instead of me.
Awesome.
I had something family emergency come up, and so I have to duck out partway through, and I'm going to be
Okay.
on the phone, which is not ideal. But Spencer's awesome, and so you guys you won't miss anything. You'll probably be happier. But I'll be there in the background listening and stuff. So yeah,
Great.
you take it away.
Thanks,
Will.
Ryan.
And Spence is already in the meeting. I saw him here. So
Excellent. Will, are you able to, do you have the share access?
Yep. Coming right up. Hopefully you can see.
Yep, looks good. Take
Okay.
it away.
All right. So, yeah, thanks for your introduction, Amanda. Just for everybody, I think I've met some of y'all at some of the Circular Arizona meetings or other activities in Phoenix, but for those that don't know me, I'm Will Rommel. I'm a project advisor for the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. I generally cover projects in the US and one project in Mexico. And I'll just kind of give you an overview of what the Alliance covers, and then in particular, the work that we're doing with some municipalities around the US. Just my background, I do work for Chevron Phillips Chemical, who's a resin producer, and I'm actually on loan to the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, which is a member-driven nonprofit. So I'm about 14 months into this assignment, and next year I'll be rolling off back to CPChem. And my background's always been in the project management space, doing engineering management, construction management, things like that. So happy to have landed in the recycling and kind of circular economy space. It's been really fascinating. I appreciate all the work that everybody's doing in the space. So without further ado, we'll go ahead and introduce the Alliance. We, as I mentioned, are a global nonprofit. We're a member mission-driven nonprofit. And I've got a snapshot of our membership in a couple slides, but we basically provide grants and concessionary loans to project partners. That could be entrepreneurs, municipalities, existing businesses that are trying new things. And we basically provide those loans and that funding to allow them to perform projects that are kind of like de-risking solutions models for plastics recycling infrastructure. We initially started out in high leakage areas in Southeast Asia. So we've done a lot of work in developing economies. And then after we kind of got started there, we started looking in North America and Europe. And so we kind of have two sides of our portfolio. The developing economy is much more focused around basic collection, basic recycling and sortation. Whereas in the US and in Europe, we're much more focused on kind of like new technologies and new systems for collection, things like that, which is where Recyclops kind of fits into that portfolio. When we do look at projects, if you kind of simplistically look at us kind of like a bank or like a funding mechanism, we generally look for projects that are going to be sustainable in the long run. And when we say sustainable, we're really looking for new business models that are going to be economically viable after our grant or loan funding goes away. And that's because we don't want to basically have a project kick off that's so reliant on us that can't continue delivering impact in the future. And then we also hope that our projects can be scaled by the private sector, kind of like after our funding goes away. So the scalability and replicability is a big component there. And then in general, a lot of our projects are environmentally beneficial just because of the scope emissions associated with benefit of recycling. And then we have done a lot of work in the past year around human rights in our projects and ensuring that they are socially responsible, especially when we're talking about the informal waste sector in developing economies.
Obrigado.
I think, Ryan, you're off mute. I don't know if somebody has access to mute Ryan. Here's just a snapshot showing
Sorry about that.
we do have a global portfolio. As I mentioned, we started out in Southeast Asia, kind of those higher leakage areas. And so our project portfolio is much more skewed over there. And then you can kind of just tell the developing economies we have less projects, but we are kind of quickly catching up and we have quite a big pipeline of projects in the works. This is just a snapshot of the metrics that we measure for our projects. The items in green are kind of like the key criteria that we evaluate projects on. And so those are things you might typically expect, like how much tonnage of waste is being delivered, how much is being recycled, how much is being removed from the environment. But then there's other things we measure, like how much capital was mobilized, basically to support the project along with our grant or loan. And then there's also kind of the associated topics would be things like number of new jobs, access to recycling, and then, if there's any estimates on the reduction in emissions associated with the recycling project. This is all published publicly once a year, and we started working with a third-party assurance agency to basically review all of our data and numbers and provide an assurance with that report. So it's like a trusted, trusted source of information. And then here's a quick snapshot of our membership. I think this was most recent in January, February timeframe. So people come and go, but just gives you a good idea of who's there. We're primarily funded by the petrochemical industry, but you'll see some brand owners and some other players in it as well. Okay, so in the Americas portfolio, we have this program called the U.S. Cities Flagship Program, and the overall goal is to deliver 50,000 tons per year of new PCR to the market. And just because of our nonprofit status, we're generally going after hard to recycle materials. That's kind of our remit. And so this is primarily focused on film and flexibles as the materials of concern. And what we're really looking to do across these cities, the cities are Houston, Phoenix, and Chicago, is to deliver new replicable solution models, as we call them, to transform the recycling systems around plastic in those cities. And I put this picture together just to show that we're working similar markets and ideas in a lot of different cities. And when they add up all together, they can drive that volume. Although the individual cities may have different projects or like different spins on the same theme. For example, in Phoenix, what we'll talk about with Recycle Ops is a single family approach to film collection, whereas in Houston, we're actually starting to work on a pilot for multifamily recycling. So we are talking about residential in multiple cities, but just a little bit different flavor. So the items in green are where we currently have projects, and then the items in orange-ish are kind of a little bit outside of our control, but they're things that help enable the change in delivering this volume. So things like product design, policy, and consumer education can really drive the effectiveness of these projects. And then ultimately, the offtake for the recyclate that's generated by these projects is kind of the key piece to build that demand signal and like pull that material through all the way from whether it's a retail outlet, a household, a hospital. We really need that offtake agreement to ensure there's demand for these materials. So in general, with these projects, the main challenges we face are identifying the implementation partners that are willing to basically come to the table with us at ground zero when there's like no current volume and build the system up with us, and partnering with the city or project partner to really make that happen. So finding those willing participants is always the challenge. But once we do, really the secret ingredient here is the partnerships that make this happen. The other challenges are ensuring that we design things that can be easily understood by consumers across multiple different markets, and that those also align with the end market demand, which can also be very stringent in some cases. So we may have a quality desire that's up here, but what we're able to collect today is like kind of down here. So bridging that gap can be a challenge. And then, as I already mentioned, identifying the offtake commitments for that recycling can always be challenging. So drilling back down a little bit into Phoenix, I pulled this from their website. This is the 2050 waste goals, which our projects are really designed to help drive towards. So the things in bold that I highlighted were really where our projects that I'll show you in the next slide fit into this. And it's this item number 1, which is expanding the current recycling program to remove commonly recycled products from the waste stream and reducing the number of, well, I'll put quotes around non-recyclable products from the recycle bins through public education, awareness campaigns, and new programs for increased access for residents and businesses. So kind of taking that as the guiding principle for our portfolio in Phoenix, we've divided up the program, at least to start, I should say, this is kind of where we initially landed, into a household section and a non-household section. So for the household, we're really touching that idea around reducing non-recyclable products from recycle bin. The Recyclops subscription film collection program, I guess that Spence will talk about, is kind of the first pillar there. So I'll leave that to them, but essentially we're aiming for a 10,000 household target for the pilot. The next idea is to do something at the North Gateway MRF around incidental film capture. So essentially there's film showing up in the single stream bin anyways. So what can we do to capture it and get it recycled? So pull it out of the landfill and also help, improve the quality of other commodities that are being generated by the MRF. On the non-household side, we have this idea of trying to help deliver the next 20% of diversion from landfill from non-household sources. And so we've partnered up with Arizona State University to study the opportunity in the, say, generally commercial, retail, and hospitality sectors. And what we're really targeting there is not the Walmarts and Targets of the world that have reverse logistics and things like that in place to handle their film, but it's looking for solutions at your smaller commercial outlets, like maybe a pharmacy, a clothing store, a home goods store, things like that, that may use things like stretch wrap, poly bags, a lot of back of house film, but they basically don't want to pay UPS to like ship film back to the distribution center to be recycled. So it's how can you build a system to gather the material and get it recycled? And then finally, there's a group in Phoenix, some of y'all may be aware of, called the Healthcare Sustainability Collaborative. And it's a group of medical providers in the Valley that are looking to basically take on sustainability initiatives. So I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but some of the key ones, Banner Health, Mayo Clinic, Honor Health, Phoenix Children's, the VA, a couple others. We're basically looking at diverting pre-patient packaging from ORs to be recycled. And I was actually doing a waste store at a hospital in Houston today where I live on some of this material. So I have some samples. But if you imagine in the OR setting, basically every device comes in some sort of rigid or flexible packaging. And this is all material that can be recycled and is incredibly valuable because it's very pure, hasn't gone through MRF. So there's a lot of opportunity in the healthcare sector around these materials. So that is what we have going on in Phoenix, and excited for the future and where these projects can take us and into the next phases. I'll just quickly zoom through the next two cities just to give you a flavor. But in Houston, we're also working household and non-household. Some of the themes, multifamily recycling, like I already mentioned, recycling programs for the independent school district here, the medical pre-patient packaging, like I mentioned, and then working with the Buffalo Bayou Partnership, which is a park stewardship and water cleanup organization for the main waterway through Houston, probably very akin to like the Salt River in Phoenix. And then in Chicago, we're working on deploying the Hefty Renew Bag program in a certain subset of the Great Lakes region. And on the non-household side, we're working on collecting things like boat wrap, which is used to winterize boats for storage in winter, doing a secondary sortation pilot with a modular system to allow us to test different sort effectiveness on various waste streams. And then finally, there's been some dialogues with some of the universities there on seeing if there's something we can do on campuses to collect film. So with that, I'll go ahead and close out and pass along to Recyclops, and happy to answer any questions, at the end, or you can reach out to me on email or LinkedIn or anything else like that. And I work with Amanda very closely, so you can also get to me through her. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Will. We do have some two questions in the chat for you. Oh,
Yeah, sure.
a couple questions. So maybe we can do some quick questions for you while it's fresh in our minds, and then we'll pop over to Spencer.
Sure.
So Nitra, who's with USGBC, has two questions. One, what is the funding range possibilities? And two, want to confirm for-profit corporations are eligible.
Yep. Happy to take that. So dollar range of funding, anywhere from around $350,000 up to maybe $7 to $8 million US. It drastically depends on the project and the impact and things like dollars per ton. And yes, for-profits are eligible. it's generally the split of like grants go to nonprofits and concessionary loans with like low interest rates and long payback periods go back to for-profits. So, and I've also connected recently with the, is it True, part of the U.S. Green Building Council, on talking about how to incorporate more durable products from recycling projects into the LEED program or the things like that. So I would be happy to loop you in those conversations if interested.
We have another question here from Lauren, who's with Let's Go Compost, which is a local business supporting composting services across schools. And her question is really interesting. I'm curious what the response is. Essentially, does the Alliance have programs specifically towards preventing non-compostable plastics from entering facilities that are struggling to combat these plastics and or creating more infrastructure to process them? Yeah, very curious. Is the Alliance exploring things around compostable side or mostly film and flex at the moment?
Great question. I would say, unfortunately, I'm not as up to speed on like the international portfolio, so I would be lying if I said I knew for sure the answer. In the US, we haven't broached that topic, but I do think it's really interesting and definitely something that could be of interest. And I could see, I'm sure there's like the same problem in the MRFs as well, with like compostable things getting into the MRF and vice versa. So yeah, I think it's definitely a problem that's going to continue. And like I said, I don't have anything off the top of my head that we're currently working on in the Americas, but I'd be happy to follow up. And we do work kind of closely with closed loop partners. So thanks for posting that link. I'll definitely take a read on that. It's very interesting.
Alrighty. Any other questions for Will, or feel free to drop them in the chat. Otherwise,
I'll be there
Spencer, if
so I can address
okay, great.
as well. So thank
Thanks,
you.
Will.
Yep.
Alrighty, Spencer, if you are there, are you able to share? Just want to confirm you have access. All right.
Or is that, can everyone see that there?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, awesome. Well, great. Well, yeah, my name is Spencer. Let's see, Recyclops has been around. We've been around for about 10 years. I've been with Recyclops for 9. So excited to be here. I'm on the engineering and technology side. So typically neck deep in code, but it's always nice to jump out of that and have some of these conversations. So any of these questions that I can't answer, Ryan should be able to be on and jump on and provide some greater context there. So Recyclops, as I mentioned, we've been around for 10 years. We started as a solution to provide recycling first in apartment complexes around college campuses. Then we slowly grew to provide recycling solutions to communities that didn't have access to easy or affordable recycling solutions, doorstep pickup and such. And then we've grown and over the last 3-4 years, we've found great opportunity and success in helping brands as well with some of their sustainability initiatives. So at its core, right, we collect materials and transparently give them a second life. We want to make sure that these materials stay out of landfills and we help communities and brands do that. For some, that might be the full circle, starting with pickup all the way through to ensuring that they get a new life. For some of our brands, they cover some of that and we step in and fill in those gaps that they need. So some of the brands that we do work with, CPG brands from major players to niche brands, venues, theaters, stadiums, schools, ranging from elementary on up to university, healthcare providers. We're doing a pilot with a provider out on the East Coast with their food waste programs there to help ensure that those stay out of the landfill. Manufacturers, hospitality providers, retailers large and small, and communities. So a few case studies. I believe Diaper's on this call, but Diaper's one of the early brands that we worked with to help with some of their initiatives. So they came to us, they wanted to launch a program or what they call their Rediaper program. So in 2022, they launched a national diaper collection and composting program. And so we kind of provide the background or behind the scenes support to ensure that happens, right? And so we provide doorstep collection. The customers place the used diapers out on their doorstep. We go collect that, aggregate it, and then ship it to the specialty processors that then can use it for composting. So currently that's over 20 major US metros. On the impact side, we're over 1 million pounds that have been diverted from landfills. Customers and diaper obviously love that, but on the other side, our composters love that as well, right? It's healthier soils, and so it's a win-win. And obviously our parents and babies love it as well. Imperfect Foods, some of you may have shopped with them. They were recently acquired by Misfit Markets. That's another national brand that we work with. So they came to us in 2021 looking for help for landfill diversion with their packaging, right? So you get your Imperfect Foods delivery that comes in these tin foil liners, bubble wraps, things like that. Imperfect Foods actually aggregates that, and then we take that from there to make sure that those are sent to the places that then can recycle them. Heavy in the Imperfect Foods program is transparency, right? So from the get-go, they wanted to make sure that they have full transparency that shows, you know, the impact that we're able to track and communicate both to brands as well as to customers, so that we have transparency and that they can track that internally to make sure that that matches their metrics, as well as help customers see the impact that they're having. So with Imperfect Foods, today we've got over 370,000 pounds that have been diverted from landfills. Some locations were complete zero waste that we've achieved. And again, you know, lots of happy customers. Last case study, again, some of you may have purchased these Once Upon a Farm food pouches for your kiddos, but we do a national mail-back program with them. So again, a little bit different, to where you can see here in the picture, the customers will aggregate their pouches, and once they filled up a box, they can mail that to us, and from there we'll take and make sure that it gets recycled. Let's see, Will brought up our partnership with them. We're getting ready to launch in Phoenix to provide a residential program for customers with their plastic films. So what that will look like is customers will be given in bags like this, where they can aggregate their plastic films, their bags, and once a month we will come and pick that up from their doorstep and take it from there, right, to make sure that that's recycled. You know, you can see here plastic bags, you know, there's lots of options as far as what we can turn that into. I think I'll jump there in just a sec. We're hugely grateful for our partnership with the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. That's what's made this program possible. You know, so some of the things Will mentioned, 10,000 customers, that's kind of our minimum target rate to get this pilot going, initially in Phoenix, and then from there we'll look to expand within Arizona. So we're incentivizing, we want to go all in on this. So customers who sign up, they'll get 3 months free initially, and then from there we're also opening up a referral program so that they can help us spread the word, and as they refer their friends, they get additional months free. So we're looking forward. We're really excited for this partnership. So once we collect the plastic film, what happens to it, right? Ideally, we look to recycle it, and this will then turn into things such as bubble wrap, film sheets, bin liners, or shipping envelopes. For mixed PE materials, that might be downcycled into things such as floor tiles or plastic lumber. Our multi-layer film materials can be downcycled into things such as concrete, aggregate, plastic lumber, or chemical recycling. If it is highly contaminated, we still make sure that we keep it out of the landfill, and we send it for co-processing at cement kilns, right, for things such as cinder blocks. Let's see. So yeah, this is the snapshot that I was referring to as far as impact. So for a lot of the brands we work with, we strive to give them as much transparency as possible to see what we're collecting, how much we're collecting, and what that impact, you know, translates into. And so that, you know, we can provide detailed reporting by location, dates, and kind of give some good comparison or equivalencies for the impact that those brands are having. So I think that's about the end there. I'm not sure, you know, if you have any questions, please reach out. I'll first defer you to Ryan as we do look to launch this program with the Alliance to End Plastic Waste, or plastic film recycling. We'd love to work with any of you who might have ideas for how we can spread this. You know, one of our big goals really is to make recycling as accessible and easy as possible. And we think this is one of the great ways that we can achieve that.
One of the things that we didn't mention in the presentation is just the price point. And that is that, you know, I've worked really hard to make sure that this is super affordable. So it's only $60 for the year, $5 a month. And then obviously with the months free, that decreases that further. So definitely, you know, I think this is something that should be, we believe, affordable to any family. And we think that that's really important. We just want to do our best to make sure that, you know, any sort of sustainability initiative isn't restrictive. And so we've tried to do that. And that price point is viable at scale. And, you know, that's why it's so important that we reach scale quickly and, you know, get into that 10,000 household mark. And definitely looking, you know, to partner with community members to help pull that off. And definitely we're working closely with the city of Phoenix to accomplish that as well. And really excited for our partnership with them and the Alliance. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of impact that we can have here. So.
Thank you, Spencer and Ryan. Really cool to see all the exciting work you guys are doing with Recyclops, and looking forward to getting the pilot off the ground here and seeing if we can make an impact on foam and flex plastics. So we have a question here from Emma with Republic Services. Hi, Emma. How is Recyclops fleet working to reduce emissions?
Yeah, I'll take this, Spence, if that's okay. And if I have any connectivity issues, you can obviously take over. But the biggest thing is that we actually use the gig economy. So we're using smaller vehicles, you know, especially when you don't have density associated with the, you know, you don't have density where you're not picking up from every household. There is a huge concern about emissions, especially if you're using, you know, a traditional compaction truck where you're getting, you know, 2, 3, 4 miles a gallon. But by using kind of this DoorDash style model, we're able to really limit the emissions. And so that's the side. We want to make sure that we're not creating more emissions in a pickup than, you know, are saved by the recycling. And this enables us to accomplish that.
I think, Ryan, if I could jump in, as we've been collaborating on this pilot, we have the intent to ensure that we're grouping the participants by hotspots and then coordinating collections around where the biggest pockets of participation is happening. So it's not going to be, you know, one day they go out and pick up from 2 households and the next day they go somewhere else. It'll be once per month within those high engaged areas. So that will hopefully help to reduce any emissions from the fleet as well.
No, totally. We definitely use, you know, smart routing apps for all of that and make sure that we're optimizing for density. And another thing that's worth noting is we are doing other pickups in Phoenix, for example, the diaper pickups for that V-Diaper program. And when we do multiple programs in a single market, we piggyback them off each other or we stack them on each other. So we'll be picking up diapers the same time we're picking up plastic film, obviously keeping them separate from each other and sending them to different places. But all in all, we kind of take advantage of that, and it enables us to lower the carbon footprint of both programs, which I think is fantastic.
Good question. Thanks, Emma. Any other questions for Ryan, Spencer, or Will? I did drop the website link in the chat if anyone wants to take a look at more details around the pilot and potential participation. And if anyone is interested in learning more and collaborating, definitely reach out to us as well, because we want to make sure this is widespread and successful so we can keep those products out of our landfills.
I wanted to mention one other thing. We have a short link for it. So if you just do recyclops.com/Phoenix, it'll send you to the full page as well. So
okay, nice. Thank you.
Yeah. I know, definitely. I mean, I'll just say it again. I think the way that this works and the way that this is successful is by getting community engagement. And we found as we run community programs all over the country, the way that you get community engagement is by working with community partners like the people in this room. And so we are very eager to work with any and all of you to make this happen. Definitely, I think our efforts with the city of Phoenix, we hope that that'll help us get to where we need, from a pilot standpoint. But I think the opportunity here, Phoenix is one of the biggest metros in the country, and we should be reaching much more than 10,000 households here. But we want to start with that and make sure we get that to begin with. So definitely would love any and all support.
Thanks, Ryan. All righty.
Hi. I
Oh, hi, Mike.
admittedly, hey Amanda. I admittedly had to jump off for most of the presentation, so I apologize if this question was something you covered. But I'm at Republic Services, and I'm wondering if you've worked with companies that operate what's kind of the mainstream recycling, who see plastic film in the current state of things as something that makes recycling centers more expensive, gunks up machines, gets in the way, and takes value away from the other commodities. Are there partnerships like that you have in place? And is that, when you say you're working with City of Phoenix, is that part of the angle of that work together, of saying, if we can take this out of the recycling stream, then it's cheaper for you, you're going to get more return on investment?
That is definitely the angle with the city of Phoenix, and then you can touch on that too. But yeah, or Amanda. But yeah, we're definitely trying to decrease film going to MRFs, because obviously that is a real expense and causes real problems. And so we would welcome partnership with any haulers as well. And obviously it's a problem for any hauler, and there could be a great opportunity to say, hey, instead of just saying stop putting this in your bin, you could say stop putting this in your bin, we have another solution for you, which I think is a lot more powerful of a statement. But yeah, would love to do more with that. I think that we're barely scratching the surface, but that is definitely an angle we're taking with the city.
I'm aware that TerraCycle has some similar partnerships with some haulers, and I know they've pitched a similar thing to me of a bag that can be collected and put in a different part of the truck, even go through regular collection. Complicated logistics, but it definitely seems like with the current technology, there's space for that.
Yeah, we know the TerraCycle team really well, and actually, even in cases they've contracted us to do residential collection for them, because we're really good at residential pickups and small scale like this. And so definitely I think that we're going to see more and more opportunities like this, and we want to see more people doing what the hefty Renew program, or TerraCycle's zero waste bags. Obviously we're very supportive of our own efforts. But love seeing these, and I think there's plenty of room for all of these and more. It's a big problem. So
And I think, Mike, to add on, the reason we've designed this pilot with Recyclops on the residential component to be curbside valet style is the intent is it will skip the MRF. So we want to see if that has any impact on reduction in contamination and disruption in the facilities. And then through the Alliance side, we are exploring, there are different members in the Alliance that have different technologies and equipment for MRF specifically to address the film and flex incidentals. And so that is another element that we are early stage exploring. I don't know, Will, if there's anything active around that from some of the other pilots or work with the Alliance that you want to highlight here, but great points to call out in general.
Yeah, so yeah, I think in Phoenix it'll kind of boil down to like what's feasible at North Gateway, and then I guess once 27th Ave is up and running, we'll see what we can do. Yeah, it would just be kind of like working with your typical technology providers to see like, is there a solution is it on a pre-sort? Is it something we can pull out of the residual, or an intervention on the paper lines to pull it out so you're not impacting those other commodities? But by that time, it does go through the MRF, so I'm kind of very aware of that. The other project that's in our portfolio that's probably most applicable to something like this is I'm actually managing the project with JP Mascaro and Sons at Total Recycle in Pennsylvania, where we are actually doing curbside collection of film and flexibles in the single stream bin at the curbside. So that's a really interesting project that we've kind of taken on and are working with the recycling partnership on. So yeah, very interesting. There's lots of interest there. And I think what's going to be key is this project in Chicago that I mentioned, maybe before you jumped on. We're doing a secondary sortation pilot study with the Council of Great Lakes region up there around, it's actually like a modular secondary sort machine, basically. So you can kind of test the effectiveness of these different waste streams going through a secondary sort to see if there's value. So that would be kind of like an interesting case study proof point to see, like, hey, actually, if your residual kind of has this component to it, it could pencil out, and it gives you the benefit of having the proof in the pudding. You can actually like see it happen before you take the risk on building the facility. So very interesting to see how that would play out.
Kendon, I saw your hand up next, and then we'll go to you, Deborah.
Howdy, pleasure to virtually meet y'all. Kendon from ASU in the Zero Waste office. I had a question about how information at this residential or individual level might be aggregated in a way to address aggregated and connected to the upstream to try and stem the flow of material in the first place. While, for example, K-cups are our pride and joy, laced with all kinds of sarcasm here. The only place to recycle them is in New Jersey, even though there is compost facilities less than 7 miles from campus. So I'm curious about how that information of those smaller materials might be aggregated in a place that is useful for a region to hopefully get off of certain materials.
I guess from the Alliance side, everything we do generally gets published in like a playbook of some sort. We'll typically group similar projects. So we may not have like a City of Phoenix playbook. This is what we did. But for example, we're doing medical in both Houston and Phoenix. That would kind of ultimately be published in like a playbook. So a lot of that data, the lessons learned from the project, the successes, the factors in the local region that made it possible, all that is, kind of published at the end. And we're very open sourced in terms of like trying to share information, get the word out. So I'd say that's how we're going to address it. I maybe leave it to Spencer and Ryan to talk about kind of how RecycleOps uses the data, especially with the city and the Zero Waste team here specifically. But that's the Alliance approach, at least.
Yeah, I would say a couple things. One, we're gathering data on a household basis at some level and looking to kind of do a better job of, even improve on that. But we take a picture of everything we pick up at every house, and that helps us with contamination issues and flagging that. Our drivers have the ability to flag contamination issues on the spot, so we can help make sure material's clean. And we are working towards being able to do more with understanding volumes by household from this same data, and so that we can really, just understand trends. When it comes to where we take things for processing, we have a policy of full transparency. So as we do this program, and the intent is always to have multiple outlets, because if you rely on a single outlet, then you have a single point of failure. But we will always be fully transparent with our partners and with our customers with what's happening to the material, where it's going. And today, if you're a customer of ours, you can see what MRF does this end up at and whatnot. Here we're going to skip the MRF and go straight to direct recyclers, so we'll be able to be give an even more transparent picture of what's happening. So.
Alrighty, Deborah.
Thank you. Yeah, sorry. I was on my way to this call and I got another call that came in. You know how it goes. So I missed everything, but just wanted to check. And you mentioned, Ryan, that you are trying to get the word. I'm probably butchering the way you said it, but basically spread the word, get word of mouth so that more households are aware of this. And you said something about 10,000 households in Phoenix right now. Did I hear you correctly?
That's what we're targeting as part
Oh,
of this
okay.
partnership is this pilot is to reach 10,000 households. So we literally have just launched the website.
Okay.
And so signups right now are virtually zero.
Okay.
But that's what just launched things. So, but yeah, definitely looking to partner with groups. And like we've done this, for example,
Okay.
you weren't here when we mentioned it, but we've worked with the brand Imperfect Foods
Hmm.
on different recycling programs. And one of the things that we've done with them in the past, when we have initiatives in a certain city, they will actually send out a blast to all of their customers in that city to say, hey, this is a program that's happening in your community that you might be interested in as a sustainability minded consumer. And then we've done the same thing for our customers saying, hey, you should, take a look at this sustainable grocery option. And so it's a kind of you scratch our backs, we'll scratch yours relationship there, but it's been really effective. And so we love the idea of, partnering with brands to help us get the word out and about each other. But yeah, right now we have nothing to show yet, but the expectation is that we'll have at least 10,000 households and hopefully a lot more than that.
Yeah, if it's okay with you, I'd love to connect with you another time because I have some ideas. I'm getting ready to start doing some community events that might be able to connect a lot of people who would benefit from sharing your message at the same time.
Awesome. I just put my email in the chat.
Awesome. Thank you.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions for the group here? Otherwise, we can hand it off to the Arizona Forward team for some announcements. Lori, take it away. And if any questions do pop up, feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah, we just have a quick few announcements. If you happen to be in Flagstaff on the 17th, I think that's the day, we have a Northern Mixer going on that evening at Mother Road Brewery, so stop by and see us. We're also about to graduate our Emerging Leaders class in May for this year, which is very exciting, and we'll be accepting applications for the new program later on in the summer, and that will start up again in October. So if you have someone that you think might be interested, please reach out to Nanda or I, and we'd be happy to share more information with you. And then I think that's all. We had a great Environmental Excellence Awards event, which is one of our signature events. And now we're starting to plan our summit, which will be November 1st at the SRP Para Club. And we're still thinking about ideas and topics. So if anybody has anything they want to share with us that they'd like to know more about, we'll put it together with the team as we plan for that meeting then. And I think that's all, unless anybody else on the call. Nanda. Okay. I think that takes care of us.
Excellent. So save the date for November 1st. Looking forward to that. And then, yeah, I think from here, we will not be connecting again until September. We are potentially going to hold a meeting in August if there are updates from the ADEQ grant funding availability for the next fiscal year. So there may be a one-off meeting. Otherwise, we will see you guys on the first Thursday in September. Thank you so much to Will and Ryan and Spencer for joining us today and sharing out on all this exciting work happening within our region. If you're interested in connecting with them or learning more, please feel free to email myself, Ryan, Will, and we'll get you looped in. And other than that, I think we can wrap here and give everyone some time back for the day. Thanks so much, and we will see you in the fall.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.